this is Newt Warren. My pronouns are she, her, and I am the director of the Viking Union Gallery. And welcome to the second episode of PSA with ASP, the art section. Today with me, I have Lex Clark, who is a Seattle-based photographer, and I'm really excited to get to talk to her today. So Lex, do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, everybody. My name is Lex. I am from a small town outside of St. Louis, Missouri. I have been in Seattle for about 8 years now. I've been shooting photography for almost three. And yeah, my pronouns are she, they, and I'm so excited to be talking to you guys.
Awesome. Yeah, thank you again so much for meeting with me today and wanted to talk about your stuff. I found your work through a colleague of mine and through Seattle Art Post. Um, and just the other day, I was scrolling through your Instagram with your photos, and I was like, these look as though they're, I think a lot of your more recent posts look as though they're like screen grabs from a music video,
Oh,
and the vibes are immaculate. Like
thank
hate
you.
I hate to use the terminology, but there's like no other way
No,
to
it's
say
okay.
it.
Yes, thank you so much.
Yeah, just like I think some of the like green and yellow tones, and there's this like quality, almost like a texture to your
Mhm.
photographs that even comes through on Instagram, which is amazing. So I'm really excited to get to talk to you about that. Um,
Absolutely.
but let's start with, how did you get into photography? Like, how did you find your niche?
Oh man, this story is funny because it's like, everybody has the story of like, I went to college or like I started in high school, but I, long story short, I was feeling really like bad, really negative, and I was like going through like a depressive period in my life. About 2, 3 years ago, I was also in a really unhealthy relationship with someone that I'm not with now, but with someone that wasn't really fueling me or nourishing me in the right ways. And so I wanted to have an outlet, like a more positive outlet, because I felt myself coping in negative ways and I wanted to cope in a more positive way. So I've always loved film photography. I'm a stylist. I was a stylist before that and a creative director before photography as well. So working with like film photographers on set and like just seeing like film, like old film fashion campaigns like Versace and Chanel, like from the 90s and the 80s, really inspired me as well. And so I just got up one day I was feeling really bad, and I was just like sad about something, about an argument, and I was like, you know what? I'm gonna just get up, go to Goodwill, see if I could find a film camera. And so then I found like two or three of them, bought them all, and then like went to Walgreens, got some film, and immediately after that loaded the film. I didn't even know how to load film. I had to like in my car like Google like YouTube like how to load film and a film camera, and like loaded the film and just started shooting, and the rest is history. It's crazy, progressing into. I always look back on how I started and why I started to now, and it really is it's a blessing. It makes me grateful of the journey that I've had.
Wow, that's awesome that you just found your first cameras at Goodwill. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, photography is one of those things that, like, for me as a creative person, I like when I was in high school, I thought that that was going to be my thing, and so I got a camera and I figured out how to use it, and I was really excited. And then it was like a phase for me, and it didn't really like get me that way. And so there's a whole lot of like terminology around photography that just goes over my head.
Yeah.
But the products of good photography are so valuable to me. Like my whole Pinterest is just
Yeah.
photography. And that's like one of the things that I love about Instagram so much is as as troubling and as problematic as Instagram can be, um,
Yes, it can.
it's the image that's there. It's like the sheer energy that goes into creating those things that, are only pondered for like a second or two as you're scrolling, but some of them really, really get you. And I
Yeah.
think
So
that
no,
you're
seriously.
that.
I stop at an image sometimes and be like, wow, and just like marvel at it. And yeah, Instagram has gotten really weird lately, but like I could say one thing about it is that it does bring creators and art together. And I love that. And I love that people share their art on Instagram or Twitter or wherever, honestly. So yeah, it's a
Yeah.
really good place.
Yeah. I think it definitely has potential to be, minus a few a few little things.
I just need
Uh,
the algorithm. I just need them to
yeah,
with the algorithm.
just I need them to
Just keep it
basically
where
help
it's
me
at.
out.
It's okay where it's at. Just you don't have to change it every month. That's what I have to say to that.
Totally. So you mentioned styling and creative directing. Those were things that you were doing before photography.
Mhm.
So how do those all work together with what you do now? I know that you manage all
Mhm.
three of those roles for yourself.
Yes. So, sometimes it gets hard. Sometimes it is very tedious and difficult when you are in charge of production. In my early days of photography, 2018, 2019, I was doing full productions by myself. Like I was styling, I was creative directing, then I was going out and scouting models and then recruiting models, making mood boards, then going out and buying the product from thrift stores because I'm a thrift stylist. So I would thrift or pull stuff from like local brands and things like that. So I was like a machine. And when 2020 hit, I kind of would realize that like, yeah, I'm gonna need some help. And all those folding it together, I'm really grateful to have that ability to do those things. And sometimes you gotta ask for help. I really love styling. I really love creative directing, and I love photography. And so how those things tie together, it's just like they're just related to each other. They're like cousins. So like the styling is just like that really rich cousin with the Birkin bag, and you just whatever. And then like creative directing is like the artsy like one with like anger issues and just like, and then like, photography is more free and like, so I feel like, I relate them to like cousins and relatives because like you need one, you need one and the other as well. So like, you can't have one without the other. So with photography, you're going to need a stylist. You're going to need a creative director. You're going to need creative direction. So I have fun with it. Make sure I have fun with it. I make sure I have fun with the models. I make sure I really make people feel comfortable when they're shooting with me, and that's really my top priority. I have fun with it, even though as stressful as it does get. I make sure like man, I make sure to stop and thank myself and be grateful, of these opportunities and just again learning to just be fun and just I'm stressed out right now, but you know what? This is great that I'm styling this and photographing this, you know. So yeah, that's how I operate. I operate with just like positivity in mind and more humility in mind than anything else, more than pride. So
That's awesome. I feel like that personal interaction that you have with your clients comes through in
mhm.
the finished product. It feels as though, um, and this is coming from someone who doesn't know anything about photography or doing it professionally, um, but it looks as though there is an established relationship or at least like a level of comfort there with your clients, which looks great. I
Thank
think I
you.
yeah, I think I'd be more open to hiring a photographer for myself personally if I knew for sure that that was going to be the kind of relationship that I could have with a photographer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's really important. I think that reputation and like rapport is really important in photography, in the creative community in general. You don't even have to be a photographer. If you mean well and if you're intentional and your intentions are good, and you treat people with respect and are kind and make sure you are trying your best to your best abilities, I feel like people will see that and see that, genuity in you. And so it's just really important. And I tell my friends, I think it's really important to be authentic and be intentional with your work and how you do work.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so, do you have a favorite subject or a concept that you like to play with?
Mm. Favorite subject? I really love editorial work. I don't know if that's considered a subject, but like I really love like high fashion editorial work. That's something I aspire to do down the line, is doing like really high fashion campaigns and like high fashion magazines, like, Office and even Harper's Bazaar, W magazine. But like even those grungy, like Office magazine, I feel like gives that like grungy, you know, like weird vibe. I really love just the editorial vibe, because you can do anything with editorial. You can literally, like high fashion editorial, you can put, I saw some designer boots that looked like T-Rex feet and they looked super cool, but I was like, dang, like I would love to pull that for styling and use that. Like it's just like the possibilities are endless with editorial, the high fashion editorial. You could just be as weird as you want to be, and it's just like so accepted and just like looked at as like, oh, this is art, to a certain extent. So I really love editorial, high fashion, you know, photography. It's something about those type of concepts. And I always, when I do projects, they're usually leaning on that side of the high fashion editorial. It's always leaning on like or a more abstract vibe, as well. So yeah.
Cool. Yeah, I feel like there is this realm that is created through editorial photography where, exactly as you said, anything goes. You can get as weird as you want. I think about um, any sort of ensemble of pieces worn in a weird way to the point where, like, I would love to look like that in a photo and throw it
Yeah.
on my wall and worship it, but I would never purchase those
Yes.
things to wear. You know what I
Yes.
mean? Like,
Yes, exactly.
there is this like really cool alternate universe that's created in some shoots that just looks like heaven to be a part of. Um,
Yes.
and that just seems so fun to me,
Yeah,
minus
it is.
the work.
Yes, absolutely. It's super fun. I just love it. Like when I'm doing, I have a few editorial shoots this month, and I'm just really excited for those. And those take a lot of production, a lot of hard work, and like the work is really tedious sometimes, and it can get very frustrating, because then sometimes you got a model that is not available that day, and it's like you're a week out, of the shoot, or your wardrobe stylist falls through, or like somebody, like the hair isn't right. It's just, but when you see the final product and you see what you work hard for, I think that is the most rewarding thing to see, is like all the hard work, all the frustration, all the stress that you went through came out in this beautiful image.
Yeah. Um, so, I mean, thinking about that subject or that sort of style of photography that you enjoy the most, when you get to do shoots like that, do they tend to be for individual clients or products or brands? What do you do most? And, or maybe better yet, what do you enjoy most?
I so what I do most, it's a 50-50. So when I do editorial high fashion, it usually 90% of the time is my own passion projects, or like a collaboration with a model or a creative director or another photographer, that we want to work together. So usually those type of projects are more personal. With brands, usually with brands, like I haven't I've shot most local brands, and what they want is like way different than what I do shoot, which is not bad at all. They just have more of a concrete, like, you know, um rigmarole with that. So it's just kind of like, if it's a hoodie, it's like, okay, I want you to shoot this hoodie, but I want it to look, very natural and things like that. I recently shot for a small brand in Seattle called 19th and Spruce, and the theme was like, it's a Valentine's Day shoot. So like my friends, both my friends Jaime and Tyra, they're a couple, and I just shot them with the hoodies on, and with the vibe that they're giving, the love vibe and the Valentine's Day vibe. And I also love that work too, when brands give me, brands, artists, etc., clients give me kind of that creative freedom a little bit to like kind of do what I want to do. I really love that. But I also can work with strict guidelines too. I can work with people that are like, okay, like this is what I want, and this is exactly what I want, nothing different. And you, as a photographer, as a business person too, you have to acclimate yourself to those type of things. You have to acclimate yourself to those type of things, and be like, okay, his specific thing. I think that photography is very diverse, and I think that like you have to be diverse in a lot of things if you want to take it to a business level. So like, as much as I enjoy doing high fashion editorial, in order to get, to the next level, I don't, not trying to say tier or anything, but like go to the next level and like getting hired by magazines and stuff like that, you got to work with, brands and, things that you don't particularly shoot in order to, gain that type of goals that you want. I hope that answered the question.
Oh, yeah, totally. We love to see the versatility. Um,
Yes.
uh, I'm just looking over my questions here.
No
Um,
worries.
yeah, I wish I would have ordered these a little bit better.
It's
They're a little
okay.
out of order, but
It's all right.
no, we'll jump around. Could you talk a little bit about how, or your experience starting a business, marketing yourself as this photographer, stylist, creative director, and what that has been like, especially being self-taught?
Yes. So it's definitely been a journey with marketing. I'm still in that journey. I'm still learning a lot with it. But I will say to everybody listening to this that make sure that you have contracts solidified, even when you're starting off. That was the mistake that I did make, is that I didn't have contracts when I did start really shooting like people and clients and things like that. I would just work through the DMs and then just message them through the text message or any type of messaging app like that. And then I would just give them my rates, and then we would talk from there. And then, there were some things I saw flaws in that. Like, when I post, you know, I had some people like, okay, well, I didn't approve that, or I didn't want that to happen. I didn't want to post today and things like that. So, with marketing and then running a business, I think firstly, with running a business, you have to like, it's customer service all the way, especially when you are working with people. And that whole customer is always right. It's kind of true. So you kind of have to like gauge yourself and have that patience and that humility within yourself to be like, okay, I messed up. So let me, A, apologize, and B, try to make it right. And so I think that's something that I kind of struggled with at first, with like just working with all types of different people. People would work, I've worked with models that have worked with big brands, and then I've worked with models that are just starting out. And, they used to ask me, okay, what's the contract? Oh, well, what's the rates and things like that. And I didn't even have an idea when I first started what those things were, like contract rates. What are my rates? What is that? So I think like, firstly, with business, it's a learning curve, and make sure you are like, if you want to get into the business like photography, creative directing, styling, DJing, whatever, make sure you have a concrete plan. And it doesn't even have to be extremely concrete. It can be like a very soft draft plan, like, I'm going to charge this contract is this, and just really write it out for yourself, because that is the number one advice I have for people with business, because that's something I learned the hard way. I had, some models got upset with me, didn't want to shoot with me again, or talk to me, or was like, hey, like, I don't like how you went about this. And you know what? And I'm being transparent, because those type of things happen. People like to, I think creatives, especially business creatives, like to put up this facade that like none of this happens, which it does. Like, you know what I'm saying? I be fully transparent, and I am no shame in saying that there were some clients that were like, I'm gonna be honest, like, I don't think we're gonna hire you again. because of this. You know what I'm saying? And that it does hurt. It's like, ooh, and it's more they hire me than not. Like, so it's not, I've only had 2, 3 clients that were like that. And, and it wasn't nothing to do with them. I fully accepted ownership and responsibility of that. And I apologized and I said, that is unfortunate, and I'm sorry about that, and so it's just a learning curve to be more professional and to have and hold your professionalism with business. So yeah, I think that just with business in general, I think when I started off as a creative outlet, and I didn't start off as the intention wasn't business, and so that's what kind of got me in the sticky situations, sticky situations, because I'm not used to the business side. I'm just used to just shooting, because I want to create.
Yeah, no,
Hope
that's
that wasn't
great.
vague.
No, that was totally great. And I think that for me personally, as a business owner, I curate for a local restaurant here in Bellingham. Um, that experience of like getting a business license and then figuring out, okay, wait, how am I going to manage the communication part and what's my schedule like? Setting aside time to do all of that is so, so important. And everything that you just said has also been a great reminder for me, as someone who's learning how to do that still as I'm doing it. So I think that's awesome advice. Definitely something that I needed someone to say to me. I think that's one of
I'm
the
so
hardest things.
glad.
Yeah, I think, as I'm guessing that there's a thriving, diverse, amazing creative community in most places. And I
Hmm.
know that where I am in Bellingham, and when I do get to hang out in Seattle, um, there is an abundance of creativity and self-starters and ambition there. And
Yes.
I love to see my friends really thrive and be successful in the thing that they want to do. But one of the things that I find, being a college student, having the privilege to go to college, is like there really aren't too many opportunities for someone to explain to you how to do that, how to actually
Hmm.
create a business out of your creativity, if that's something that you want to do. Like, there are very few opportunities I've found in my experience, for someone to sit you down and say, these are the things that you need to know how to do before you start a business, like 101. And maybe it's just my poor choice in classes, but um, that's something that I find is like totally missing, um, that I think a lot of people need. So I'm glad that you were able to speak on that.
Yeah, it's good to be transparent. And I think that I honestly think how important it is to be truthful and transparent, especially when it comes to business, because I work with film. So I'm 100% film photographer. Sometimes I'm very heavy on the sometimes with digital. If it's like product shots or anything else like that, and they just need that digital file, I'm able to do that. But like I shoot with mostly film, and everyone know, like, most people know that film takes a process. It takes a process to process the film, to develop the film, then scan it in, then correct it and everything else like that. So in that, I have to be transparent. I have to be truthful and be like, hey, just so you know, thank you. I'm grateful for the opportunity. However, this is going to take 5 to 7 business days to process because it's film. I have to be upfront and intentionally truthful with my art because of that sector in my art. So then with that, I found being truthful with everything else very easy. And even though it did suck for those few clients to be like, hey, like, yeah, like it was kind of rocky, and we kind of just want to go somewhere else with it, and those things hurt, but they're just such a learning curve. And I learned so much from that. And I'm like, and I'm never ever upset, and I had one client, say that and come back a year later. So it was just, you never know, with those things, because it's also how you handle things. It's also how you handle those type of things, because you do not want to like overreact and be like, well, and going off on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that, because most of that comes and bites you in the butt later on. You know what I'm saying? So I think that the way you react to those things as well is very important. How you treat even in your frustration and your anger, how you treat the client after those type of things happen is really, really important. Um, I had a client that was really upset about how the film turned out. And I explained to them, like, I apologize, this is film. And I just reiterated that, but I also made sure I was apologetic. And they just like decided, it wasn't like rude. They didn't yell at me or anything, but, we were on the phone, but the tone was very firm. It was very, like, very, very mom like and kind of belittling. And I just was like, okay, and so I just sat there and listened, and I listened, and I you know, took it in, everything in that they were saying. And I try to, and my thing is, don't ever take that stuff personal, because at the end of the day, it's a business and they're running a business. So if you want, say, if I wanted to shoot, if you hired me to shoot something, a cocktail or like a menu of cocktails, and the film just didn't turn out right, and you are upset about it, that's my duty, just to listen, and be as graceful as possible as a photographer. Do I get upset? Absolutely. But in business, it's not really people's best bet to react in a visceral way.
Yeah, totally. And I think that, I mean, I've had very little experience with film. My high school was like miraculously lucky in that I had a dark room, and I took a film class, and all of it's just not my thing. I guess I don't know how to do it, but all of my film always ended up like just total shit. It was just like shit film every time. But
Girl, it's gonna happen.
yeah, I mean, some people were able to create absolutely great photos, and we were all beginners at the time. So I think that especially with film as a medium, there's only so much that you can control as a photographer, and then there's the chemistry that does everything else. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and so I could totally imagine there being some unexpected issues with the film, but I think that's also a part of what makes film so unique, is
Absolutely.
that it comes out almost different every time. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so that's awesome that you've been able to create this really, it sounds like you're really secure with your practice and your business. And that's got to be so helpful to be able to cultivate that with your interactions with your clients. Something,
Absolutely.
yeah, that's something I think and I'm sure plenty of others are also working on. Um,
It's a learning process, honestly, with marketing too. Like, I haven't marketing myself is really, I just let the photo speak for itself, because you did ask about marketing. I didn't touch on that. I touched on it a little bit, but like, I just let the photos speak for themselves. And like, I with marketing, especially as a photographer, reaching out to brands and like clients and potential models that you want to work with is very important. And I think we sometimes get that fear-based like thought, like, oh, what if they say no? So what? What if they do say no? That's
yeah,
the worst that can happen. And I've rejection after rejection after rejection. And I found that, rejection is good. It's like, okay, because you never know. A year later, 2 years later, that same person might be like, hey, I'm doing this project. I'm shooting, I'm shooting a cover for Vogue. I would love for you to shoot it. I would love for you to work on it and things like that. And I just think, because that type of stuff has happened to me before. So it's just like, again, not taking it personally and things like that. But me marketing myself, I stick my neck out there. My first year of photography, I stuck my neck out there. I had so many DMs. I would just DM people every single day, all day. Like, hey, I'm a new film photographer out here in Seattle. Would love to work with you. Like, that's how I marketed myself, was just reaching out, reaching out, reaching out to people, and getting those shoots done. Like, in the year of 2019, I did 5 to 7 shoots a weekend, because I have a 9 to 5. So I didn't have time to like do it during the week. So during the weekend, I had 5 to 7 shoots every single weekend, because that's how determined I was to like, build my portfolio. So
wow, yeah, that's awesome. So
thank you.
is photography your one and only project at the moment, or are you working elsewhere too?
Well, no, I have my brand, Support Your Homegirls, and I am working on that. I'm working on a lot. This is a sample hoodie, and this is going to be just coming out probably next month. And I have filmmaking projects coming up. You know, I just shot and directed a music video with my colleague Bailey Williams. She's also a director, and she works with Please Come Again, which is with Dave B, Sango, and you know all those other beautiful Black artists, like Nacho Picasso. I'm just trying to off the top of my dome. I'm sorry, y'all. If y'all listening, sorry if I'm forgetting anybody. But you know, she's the general manager of Please Come Again, and she's amazing director, amazing, um, just all around person. And so me and her shot and directed a music video for a local Seattle rapper, Upi Moore. And so it's just going to be super fun. I'm really excited to see it. I'm shooting on all camcorders. So all of my stuff that I'm coming out with, my filmmaking things will be mostly on camcorder. I'm in the works of writing two short film scripts right now, as well. So I have it's a lot going on, but I
Yeah.
really think that dipping your toes in everything is really essential. And one of my really big role models is Pharrell Williams. I really love Pharrell. Like, I've 20 years in the making, 20 plus years in the making of me just being like infatuated by this person, but also like not trying to idolize him at all or anything. I just love how he has his many hats. He has his feet in everything. You know what I'm saying? So whether it's scoring for Despicable Me, whether it's designing clothes, whether it's making music, whether it's doing skincare, he does it all. And so I think that being just a versatile creative is so important. So I'm dipping my feet in different areas, like even sculpture making. I'm building right now in the process of making a coffee table out of glass Sprite bottles, and like just stuff like that, because I just really want to be well versed in art, because I love art. Like, it's just my love of art that makes me want to do all of these things and like just work really hard. So yeah.
Wow. Yeah, that's really awesome. I definitely agree that there is a lot of value to be gained in putting your feet in different ponds and checking it all
Yeah.
out. So let's see. Um, I while I was like researching you and what you're into, what you're up to, I found the Girl Don't Trip podcast, and you
Oh,
were a guest on that podcast in, I think it was 2019.
yeah.
And I listened to that to sort of get a feel for who you are. And I also didn't want to ask the same questions. I wanted to come at this with new information. But in that podcast episode, which is great, and I will link it at the end of
No.
the video as well for those who want to listen. Um, that podcast features women just storytelling, and there's a lot of value to be gained from
It's
listening to those
amazing
episodes
podcast.
too.
Yes.
So in that episode, you mentioned that you had served in the military.
Hmm.
So I wanted to ask, could you describe how that experience has shaped what you're doing now?
Ooh. Well, I got out in 2015, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I really was just so like lost, and because I got out really abruptly, and I just, it was just kind of like the head in the clouds thing. So my journey, it took a long time to get to this point when I got out. Um, how it shaped how I am today. Well, the military is not really a creative, sector. Excuse me. And but how it did, like, discipline. I think discipline is a really big role in like being in the military. I think when if you serve 2 years, 4 years, 10 years, 25 years, you're gonna get some sort of discipline. And so with my creativity, I have to kind of discipline myself when it comes to like spreading myself thin with like projects and things like that, or being disciplined in like spending money and like, okay, you have to do this, you have to pay for this, and you have to feel this, so you can't do this right now. So like I think that discipline really plays a big role in my creativity, and that has been transformed from being in the military and being disciplined in that.
Yeah, that's a pretty powerful lesson. I feel like that's another one of those areas where I'm like, especially with budgeting, it's one of those things that's really difficult for me.
So difficult.
But it's absolutely essential lesson to learn for everybody, no matter what you're up to. I think that it makes you a better person. So it's awesome
Absolutely.
to hear about that experience. So I think I'm gonna backtrack a little bit. But
No, it's
you,
okay.
it's my understanding that you didn't go to school for photography.
No,
So
I didn't.
could you talk about if there were any resources that were available to you, or any resources that you took advantage of as someone without the formal schooling going into photography as a business?
Honestly, I just started asking people. Like I started asking for advice and being like, "Hey, I'm like a photographer out in Seattle. Would love some tips and advice." And I would YouTube is your best friend. Google is your best friend. So I would literally just Google. I would for hours watch YouTube when I first started, just for hours, just on my TV in my bed watching YouTube, videos about loading film, what one type of film looks like, what, you know, how to fix a damaged camera, like everything under the sun about film, because I really wanted to learn and really have like the answers. When somebody presented me a question like, hey, why does this look like this? I'm able to answer that. And asking people, I mean, I literally say all the time, it's like you're never too advanced and you're never too old to ask for advice and ask, you're never looking stupid when you ask, because everyone's here to learn. We're all here to learn different things, and we're continuously learning until the day we perish. So just like YouTube, Google, like if something was wrong with my camera, if I had like some type of error in my screen, I would be like, what does BC on the Nikon da 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 mean? And it'll be like, okay, it means you need to change your battery. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Like, so, it's just Googling those things and just researching, research upon research, and then also networking. I have cultivated this little circle of mine with, of my favorite photographers, and I have photographer friends that we fold into each other, that we make space for each other when it comes to those things. So I could text my friend Vincent Perry, who is also amazing film photographer. I can text him and be like, hey, I this film, my camera is doing something, like, do you know what this means? And like he'll be like, yeah, you should do this, that, and the third. Or no, I would text this person, or I ask this person. Like, so it's like we have cultivated such a community where we can help each other out and ask each other and be like, hey, like, do you have advice on how to use Portrait 400 in studio lighting? And it'll be like, yeah, so this, that, and the third, saying, all these, advice and things like that. So I think that community um, also is a really, really big, important thing as well. You make sure that you have a community that is respectable and that is willing to help each other out.
Awesome. Yeah, um community is one of those things that's like really hard to break into, especially as like a transplant from another area.
Yes.
So could you talk a little bit about what that was like, getting into, like, coming into your own in Seattle?
So I started when I first got into the community, because I started film photography and I was like just shooting random things like cars, like grocery stores, stuff like that. And I was doing that by myself. And so then I started shooting like people, like the first person I shot, her name was Blair. Hey Blair. And excuse me. And so I shot her, posted it, and then I had my friend Christian, who was part of this, who was a part of this collective called Street Meet Washington. He was like, "Hey, I see that you do film. Come out to one of our meets one time, and I would I would love to see you. Haven't seen you in a minute, and would love to like network and network with you with other photographers and models and creatives." So I went out there, and I started shooting models and whoever with my film camera. And I remember that the first time I went, I took 200 ISO film to a night shoot, and I'm like, that was such a like juvenile no that you do with on nighttime film. Some people can get away with it, but it's like, I don't know why I did that, but it was just me not knowing at the time. But I went there, and the rest was, and like I said, the rest is history. And I started cultivating the community and being like, okay, like, I can talk to this person, and it's like, this is cool to talk to this person about, medium format. And, it just started growing into a bigger thing. And I started going to more meets and going and networking with more people, and then finding out more about models and clients, and then reaching out then. And it just like grew into this beautiful blossoming business that I do have now. And I really I thank Christian, and I thank the people that really did like be like, hey, come and meet with us and like shoot with us and things like that. And that's how I got like my shoe in into the Seattle community. And I just started shooting and doing things. And I also like love to dress, so I like would take pictures of my outfits sometimes, and like put them on the gram and things like that. So like cultivating that, again, with cultivating that community and just sticking your neck out there and networking and talking to people, I think is so important. I know people get nervous because I'm a person that deals with anxiety. So like just breaking through that, like it's a breath of fresh air.
Yeah, that's really awesome that there were welcoming arms for you.
Yes.
Um, let's see, I've got, I think, just a few more questions.
Yeah.
So could you talk about some of the most notable opportunities or experiences that you've had, and what are the advantages that you've taken from those opportunities?
Recently I just did a jewelry campaign with Ferris Jewelry. She is just such an amazing, Ferris is such an amazing person. Her jewelry is absolutely gorgeous. I mean, I bought so gorgeous so that I bought my mom a pair for Christmas. That's how influential her jewelry is, and her clientele is stretched as far as Nordstrom to Solange Knowles to Alicia Keys. And that was one of the opportunities that I really felt most proud in, because of looking back of how I started. And then now it's like, dang, I'm really shooting like a jewelry campaign. It's just very humbling. So that was a notable one for me. Also, I worked with my colleague Cheyenne and Radia on this shoot that I did about this time last year. Actually, posted this time last year. I don't know if you're familiar with my photo with the girls exchanging money with their hands, with their nails, and then that whole series was so notable for me, because that's when I started realizing that, like, oh, I'm a photographer, and oh, I can do this. Like, I can really make this look cinematic. I can make this look like this, and I can make this happen with film. And so I think that was one of my most notable shoots as well. Like, it was just like one of my most popular as well, my most viral shoots as well. And then also, um, there's so many notable opportunities and shoots that I've had. It's just so hard to pick. I did recently a shoot last year in September, with this beautiful Black woman photographer. Her name is Reagan, but she goes by Miss Dukes on Instagram. Phenomenal photographer, amazing person in general. And we did a collaboration with a few models, and it was just like we went to a beauty supply store and we did some editorials in the beauty supply store. And I styled it, she creative directed it. It was just amazing. And, again, some of my most viral work came from that, and my most notable work came from that. And so I just think that, like, man, I feel grateful and humbled by every opportunity that I have, big or small. It doesn't matter what it is, from 19th and Spruce, smaller local Seattle clothing line contacting me, to Ferris contacting me. I'm humbled in every single and grateful in every single opportunity that is asked of me. So every opportunity for me is notable, because it's like I'm still in the process of being a photographer and getting these jobs and like still like waking up and be like, oh shoot, I'm a photographer. Oh dang, I did that. I also, what was really notable is shooting Lil Mosey, which is he's a rapper from Seattle, and it's funny because I really, it's embarrassing to say because I'm almost 30, so maybe my age, I don't know, but I literally did not know who he was. I knew his songs, but I didn't know who. I didn't put the two and two together. So then when I was telling my friends like, oh yeah, I'm shooting this rapper named Lil Mosey, on Saturday, they're like, you're shooting who? And I'm like, Lil Mosey. They're like, what? And they just like freaking out. And I'm like, oh, I'm like, I just didn't know like it was, he was a big influence here. And when I found out how much of an influence he was here, I was like, wow, this is pretty cool. So that was one of a really good notable opportunities for me as well. It's just like, dang, I shot a rapper. That's cool. And that made me want to shoot even more rappers. I'm like, dang, I want to shoot Big Sean. I want to shoot Jay-Z. I want to shoot, Smino. It would be just super great to, shoot with rap artists because it was such a fun time. And I'm like, it's just really fun. And, I think that I just love any opportunity that I get to create and shoot. So
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, there's a lot of good stuff there, and I'm excited to see what you do in the future because I mean, just seeing the growth on your Instagram from like the past year,
yes.
and then you know we've got like probably 2021 is probably going to be a little bit rocky, but I'm sure that there's nothing but like even bigger and better things ahead. So that's really exciting.
Oh, thank you.
Um, so I mean, speaking of 2021 and the pandemic, I wanted to definitely touch on some of the unique challenges that you faced um, during the past year as a creative professional during a time when you really can't do a whole lot of creative work.
Yes. So when the pandemic, the quarantine started in March of last year, I wasn't particularly sad, honestly, because of the fact that I was like doing a lot already. So I feel like it gave me an opportunity to sit down and turn inward and just be like, sit down and really reflect. And so with that, I was reflecting a lot. I was just like, okay, like, what is my next move? Like, what do I want to do creatively? And so with, the pandemic, the challenges that I did face is, yeah, being alone and like, because I live alone. And so being alone with myself and my thoughts, I think that was, one of the biggest challenges with me and facing myself. And then also creatively, it was a little bit stifling. And I started another creative adventure. So like, and that was the advice I gave my friends. Like they were like, man, I can't shoot, or man, I can't style, or, everything's closed. And I'm like, dude, start something like, you doesn't have to be serious. Just start something creative to still have get those wheels turning, those gears turning. So I started doing resin projects. I started, making things out of resin, sculptures, like figures, whatever, like putting dyes in them, putting flowers in them. Just like I have so much resin artwork in a closet, like that no one's ever gonna see because I just did so much during that pandemic to just still get my mind in that creative state. And I also like to paint as well. I love to paint abstract art. And so, again, a whole bunch of stuff that no one will see. And I just love to do abstract art, and I love to just paint, and I love to just be free in that and be free from the shackles of the photography. And not saying photography is, you know, pinpointing or anything else like that. But when you're doing something, the same thing for a long period of time, sometimes it does get a little old. And being that how much I love photography, it was getting a little bit, okay, like routine. So I was like, well, let me just spice it up. You know what I'm saying? I spice it up. Let me paint. Let me do some like hardware work. Let me design a clothing line. I designed a clothing line, Support Your Homegirls, out of, the pandemic. That came out of the pandemic. My filmmaking and directing came out of the pandemic. And I think that just utilizing your mind and turning inward, and even if you don't want to do that, reflect and turn inward and journal. I journaled a lot. I prayed a lot. I really just made sure that my mental state was cultivated for, so when I outside were open again, I was ready, and I was ready to, go forth in those projects. And I think it's really important. And it was hard. It really was hard being alone, and at times it got depressing, and at times, my mental health wasn't as good as it should have been. And and with that, it was a learning curve to learn that, and learn that about myself, and being like, I can't go anywhere to distract myself. I might as well work on myself. I might as well journal my thoughts, and I might as well pray, and I might as well be, try to be the best person I can be, and heal from, whatever mentality I'm going through right now. So
Yeah, that's really awesome to hear that, from one creative to another, that there were um, times that you were able to start a new project, even if that wasn't
mhm,
like a money making project.
right.
I think that those are some really important hobbies, skills, interests, etc., to focus on. It's like something that feeds your soul a little bit more than
Yes.
those that make you money.
And
Um,
also music. I started off as a musician. After before styling, creative directing, photography, I was a musician. So like before, so when the pandemic started, and I think it was like May, June. I think it was June, and I was like, I'm gonna buy me a bass guitar. And I'm like, I just, and because I used to play acoustic guitar, and I really loved the acoustic guitar, and I fell off a lot with that. And I was just like, I'm gonna learn how to play bass guitar, and I'm gonna learn how to DJ and mix stuff. So like also in that, I learned how to mix, DJ mix, and I learned how to, play bass guitar and some songs on the bass guitar and things like that. And I think that that also like fueled me and fed my mind. Sorry for interrupting.
you're good. You're good. Yeah, that's really awesome that you were able to do extra fun things. It's definitely been, I mean, I've been lucky in that I have had something to do. I'm like in school, I'm working, but that downtime has been really, really hard to fill with any creative desires. But it is inspiring to see other people push themselves in that way. I love to see that. I definitely have some friends who are working on their own passion projects, and it's great to see where those go. So
Absolutely.
love that you're doing that as well. So I think as we covered a lot, which is awesome. I'm so happy that you were able to share a lot of your wisdom and experience with us.
I'm happy to be sharing with you guys.
Awesome. And just as a last little something for those watching, what is something or a few somethings that you want emerging creative individuals to know?
Be authentic, be intentional. There's nothing wrong with being yourself. There's nothing wrong with being upset that something didn't turn out the way you wanted to. I think the biggest lesson for me is I'm a perfectionist, and things cannot be perfect all the time. And I think we take that those type of things for granted. But my biggest thing is be authentic, be intentional, and always be kind, always be humble. Even if I shot a Vogue cover, I'm gonna be like, yeah, I shot a Vogue cover that one day, and then I'm going right back to work. So always be kind, and always be authentic and intentional with your work, because that shines through more than anything. Um, Always be kind on set. Make sure even the people that are assisting you, like your assist and the PAs, or somebody just running to get coffee, like make sure they're loved too. Make sure you make sure they're secure as well. That goes a long way as well. Yeah, just being nice, being kind, being humble, and being your true self, and knowing that what's for you will be for you, and not to force anything. Never to force anything, because when you force something, then it doesn't seem authentic, and it just seems like a job to you. you know um so yeah, that's something I always want to tell people, is just to be authentic, and just to be yourself, and always be kind. My dad taught me that, to always be kind and empathetic towards people. So I think that plays a really big role in being a creative as well, because that's an emotion. Being creative is very emotional. So, you know, you gotta have that empathy towards people and have that emotion. So yeah.
Awesome. Yeah, all good things. Thank you again so much for
Yes,
everything
thank
that
you.
you contributed today. I'm so glad you could share your work and your wisdom and your experience with us. Um,
Absolutely.
and yeah, we'll link all of the relevant business down below and at the end of this video and our Instagram and all that good stuff. So yeah, thanks again so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much. I'm so grateful for you guys having me. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys.
Yeah, you're so welcome. It's been an absolute pleasure to get to talk to you and hang out. And I'm really looking forward to see everything else that you do in the future. I'm gonna send your profile to a whole lot of my friends who I think will enjoy it too.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah.